stop politicizing the science. Tests of scientific literacy show that the deniers are no less knowledgeable than the believers. Vaccines are probably one of the best things our species has ever done. The prospect of nuclear war would be so unthinkable, quite literally lead to the extinction of the human species. One could worry that once that taboo has been breached, once the line had been crossed, many things to fear.
He is the Harvard professor, Steven Pinker.
This lack of separation between the executive and the judiciary, so Trump being able to elect 3 officials onto the Supreme Court.
The United States already is behind the curve in terms of global progress.
The reduction in absolute poverty in the last 200 years, 95% to now something like 13.
The moral imperative is not that everyone have the same. The moral imperative is that everyone has enough.
It reminds me of Enlightenment Now and this idea of progress. So perhaps by getting rid of this nuclear energy, Germany is not making progress. America as well, in many ways, is experiencing regression. I was wondering, what do you think the potential damage will be if Trump gets reelected? And do you think it's likely for him to be reelected now? It's a very obviously pertinent and timely discussion.
Yes, well, it could be. We don't know, but it could be disastrous. He has threatened to take actions that are like that of a tin pot police state dictator on his first day of office, of jailing his opponents and journalists. And he's talked about violating the law against presidents serving more than 2 consecutive terms, which is, of course, what autocrats and dictators do. They install themselves for life. He would be disastrous for climate action. There'd be, many things to fear. Now, how likely is it? The opinion polls at this stage are misleading. I put a little more faith in prediction markets, where people have put money on the line, and they are putting it at this point, pretty close to 50-50. I haven't checked in the last couple of weeks. I suspect, I haven't put money on the line in a prediction market, although I might. I suspect it's less likely than not, simply because as election day draws nearer, the reality of a Trump presidency and all the negatives that led him to lose the popular vote twice will become stronger, especially as the trials that have the indictments proceed, and he's just in a negative light as an accused criminal. Now, this won't affect his so-called base, the 25% of voters who consider him a cult figure, almost a messiah. They are unshakable, but they won't determine the election. It is the sliver of people in between, especially those in the swing states, because of the bizarre American system for electing presidents. It's the voters in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania that'll determine the election. So we don't know, and I wouldn't bet a lot of money. I think it's more likely that he will lose, but the chances that he will win are worrying. They are not negligible.
One of the primary arguments in Enlightenment Now, and I think one of the things that you're perhaps most known for, is the idea that even with peaks and troughs, so for example, you might argue that Donald Trump being elected was a trough in progress, that generally we're going in the direction of progress. And one thing that worries me, I think, with the United States as it relates to progress is the fact of kind of this lack of separation between the executive and the judiciary. So Trump being able to elect 3 officials onto the Supreme Court. And I'm wondering what you think the negative knock-on effects of that might be, and whether that might lead to a more general and long-term regression in America's liberal state. Yeah, go on.
It could. And I take pains to point out that the United States, as salient and conspicuous as it is not the world. It's not even the world of developed democracies. We are and this is my adopted country because I'm Canadian. The United States is a weird country. I mean, it's a weird developed democracy, and in many, many measures, it is an outlier, and most of them worse. That is, we don't live as long, we're not as happy, we have higher rates of mental illness, higher rates of obesity, higher rates of drug addiction, higher rates of incarceration, higher rates of violent crime. So the United States already is behind the curve in terms of what you might consider global progress. And yeah, it could get worse. The fact that progress on average has happened in much of the world doesn't mean it is guaranteed to continue everywhere, or even in most of the world, because it's not a mystical force. It's not a law of nature. It just means that when people apply their brain power to solving problems, and the problems they are solving are how do we make people better off, healthier, happier, safer, then every once in a while we succeed at doing that. And if we keep the solutions and try not to repeat our mistakes, then progress can happen. But that's all the progress consists of. It doesn't happen by itself. And if the historical forces that have caused progress, namely humanistic values and the application of reason and science, if you turn those down, if you stop them, then progress will stop, because that's all that progress is, and it doesn't happen by itself.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I just wanted to drop you in a word from our sponsor Manscaped. You can use the discount code LOAF to get your discount, because even a lion needs to tame its mane.
Get the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped now. Stay fresh with no cuts, so that your baguette leaves no crumbs.
Love.